It's a story that the residents of Lena, Illinois, hopefully shouldn't forget anytime soon. And it is a wreck that I will remember. Only a 15-minute drive from where I live. I still get a same nervous feeling as every time a train goes through there. Something will happen, and it will result in a huge disaster. And today, we're going to reflect on that moment. This is the story of the 2017 Lena, Illinois train wreck. The day is March 29th, 2017. It is a little bit of a rainy day, but that still isn't going to stop train traffic. In Freeport sits a local that works during the week. The L561, otherwise known as the Furball to rail enthusiasts and crew members, was powered by a lone SD60 5475, originally built as an Oakway unit. This unit we'll get back to in just a little bit. Next up on the line is an eastbound CN grain train with two CN units, SD75 I5629 and -9 2570. This train was to meet a westbound empty ethanol train in Freeport. The empty ethanol train in question, CNU 703, consisted of two CSX GEs, ES44AC 5487 and C40-AW 7802. This train would end up meeting the daily CN manifest train, the M338, in Lena. And this train consisted of a nice trio of engines. Leading the way was Ferromix ES44AC 4697 with a big engine number font, the NS-8 8325, originally built for Conrail, and oddly enough, an NS SD75M number 2803, originally built as for the Santa Fe. This train would go on to meet the westbound counterpart, M337, in Freeport, which consisted of CN Standard Cab -8 2108, originally built for the CNW, then the UP, and IC Death Star SD70 1028. Both trains met in Freeport, and would switch in and out different cars for industries that would be going off to Lena and Rockford in the days to come. And the M33 eventually dropped off the third unit and continued onward with its train.
M337
continued west. Then it would meet another train, another eastbound grain train, of which it came from Warren. This train was 3 units, with CN-9 2560, B Coal Barn 4614, and CN-9 2574. The M337 and the grain train were to meet in Lena, and just after midnight, the plan was going accordingly. The M337 was going through town and everything seemed fine. And then the M337 falls off the tracks. As the train was going by the stopped grain train, some cars had actually tipped into the stopped grain train, derailing the contents in those cars. Some people have been wondering, what caused this to happen? I mean, it's not like it's the first time that a wreck has happened here, because one did happen just decades ago, and there hasn't been anything since. But if you look back, as to when the trains before it went along, I think you already know the answer. It was concluded that a washout is what caused the wreck. Because if you take a look back at the other videos, it was raining earlier. And the other trains ahead of it had no problems with it. The crew of the eastbound grain train with the 5629 and the U train with CSX 5487 didn't report anything wrong with the rails. And the crew of M338 didn't notice anything wrong either, as it had made along that same section of track just hours before and everything was fine. However, rain was in the forecast later that night, and over time, just as the grain train had been stopped in the siding, some ballast had just been slowly washing away. And as the M337 made its way through, some of the cars would sway side to side and slowly push the rail outwards, where then the cars began derailing, thus causing the small wreck. The CN 5475 from Freeport came over to Lena and grabbed the remaining section that had not derailed and brought those cars back to Freeport, whereas 2108 had continued with its train up to the portion where the cars derailed. Eventually, the rails were replaced, the ballast was put back down, and train service was eventually put back into full operation. None of the engines on the trains were damaged, and all had been returned to service.
However, not all the engines on the trains that went through on the line that day are still around.
NS 8325 and the remaining siblings of the NS-8 class were sold to Progress Rail in February of 2020 and were scrapped. NS 2803 and the rest of its siblings in the NS SD75M class were also scrapped, as they had been sold to K&K Recycling in Pickering, Ontario. B Cole 4614, as well as a bunch of its siblings from the CN Standard Cab and Wide Cab -A class, were all retired due to their age, wear and tear, and lack of PTC compatibility.
These units were sold for scrappers across Canada and were scrapped, ending their quarter-century-long careers.
Since this day, no major train wrecks have occurred. There may have been some smaller incidents, but nothing this severe. And even though it's only been 4 years since this wreck, the memory of seeing what was left of the wreck still just astonishes me. And now that the line has been equipped with positive train control, hopefully a wreck like this shouldn't be repeated.
As this video comes to an end, I would really like to thank Thunderbolt 1000 Siren Productions for inspiration for making this video. If you guys actually don't look at his channel, you can actually see that in his latest train wreck documentary, one of my videos was used to help him out. And I figured that since the anniversary of this wreck was coming up, I figured to ask him if I could do a train wreck documentary similar to his, but in my own way. And of course he did approve. But all I would really like to say is, aside from this being for you guys, this is for you, Thunder.